Congress now has questions for Claudine Gay and the Harvard plagiarist there, saying, why is the Harvard faculty not holding her to the same standards as its other students? And a congresswoman named Virginia Fox is now demanding answers. And I've got a letter from her wondering about all the plagiarism. You see, this is what it looks like. And we'll read through it here in a quick second. But this is also what Jake Tapper is saying about this, right? The people are starting to ask questions, even on the other side of the aisle, wondering why Harvard is filled with cheaters and why those cheaters are running things in this country. So this is even Jake Tapper now starting off his show going after Claudine.
In our national lead, is Harvard University really holding its president, Claudine Gay, Dr. Claudine Gay, to the same standards when it comes to the plagiarism it would sail for students committing the same offense? You might recall Dr. Gay, along with the presidents of MIT and Penn, giving generally seen as disastrous testimony on Capitol Hill earlier this month. They failed to explicitly say that calling for the genocide of Jews on campus would violate their campus's codes of conduct. Now that, as well as Gay's commitment to progressive policies, have made her many right-wing enemies who have recently raised issues about her scholarship. But regardless of the provenance of these allegations, there is also the matter of whether or not they're true. Harvard's top governing body said a review revealed, quote, inadequate citations by Dr. Gay in a few instances, but, quote,
inadequate
no
citations.
Violation of Harvard's standards for research misconduct, unquote. Now, Harvard's guide on sourcing says this on plagiarism, quote, in academic writing, it is considered plagiarism to draw any idea or any language from someone else without adequately crediting that source in your paper, unquote. Now, critics of Dr. Gay and Harvard's review of the allegations say that there is a double standard going on here. CNN's Matt Egan.
So interesting there that CNN's talking about it, and like the pressure is starting to build on this saga. And so this is even what the New York Times is saying. So the New York Times published this. They say, here are 5 examples of work by Claudine Gay that have been spotlighted by critics who accuse her of plagiarism. Now, she's accused of, quote, lifting words, phrases, and sentences, but most, if not all, of examples below are written in technical and academic jargon that are not meant to convey sweeping or original ideas. But her papers sometimes lift passages verbatim from other scholars and at other times make minor adjustments, like changing the word adage to, quote, popular saying, or like black male children to young black athletes. Like really original there. Here are 5 examples of her work. So she's accused of plagiarizing 2 sentences from Jennifer Hauschild. Hauschild said, Sandy Jank showed me the importance of getting data right and following where they lead without fear or favor. Now, Dr. Gay said, thanked her thesis advisor, who reminded me of the importance of getting the data right, right? So it sounds very similar. Same thing here. This guy, David Cohen. Another allegation cites language from a 1993 paper that she published. The paper, in one lengthy section, she discusses the formation of a coalition called the Unified Movement Against Racial Discrimination. She describes, quote, the expulsion of 4 young black athletes from the volleyball team at the yacht club. But 3 years earlier, this guy wrote about the dismissal of 4 black children from the volleyball team at the yacht club, right? In his paper, that appeared in another journal. Now, her paper, Gay's, does not attribute the passage to Coven, and he died this year, nor to a source related to him. Also stole this one from George Reed Andrews and stole more, right? So lots of theft going on. Thomas Skidmore ripped him off too. So just a bunch of theft, a bunch of plagiarism all over the place, copying and lifting paperwork. So now Congress has some questions about this, and specifically the Education Committee in Congress. You're supposed to keep oversight over this stuff, and the chairwoman called Virginia Fox sent this one over to Harvard. She said on December 20th, she says, all right, dear Miss Pritzker, the House Committee on Education has begun a review of Harvard's handling about credible allegations of plagiarism by President Claudine Gay over 24 years, saying an allegation of plagiarism by a top school official at any university would be a reason for concern. But Harvard is not just any university. It styles itself as one of the top educational institutions in the country. The Harvard College Honor Code, which is, quote, in effect for the academic community at Harvard, it says the following. It says members of Harvard community, okay, every student there must commit themselves to producing academic work of integrity. That is, work that adheres to scholarly intellectual standards, an accurate attribution of sources, appropriate collection of data, transparent acknowledgement of the contribution of others to their ideas. Cheating on exams or plagiarizing, misrepresenting these ideas is academic dishonesty honesty, and it violates the standards of our community, as well as the standards of the wider world of learning. But the question for you, Harvard, is does Harvard hold its faculty and academic leadership to the same standards or no? Now, our committee understands that Harvard was first approached by the New York Post back in October. Now, they sent a message to Harvard. They said, hey, you guys are covering up plagiarism. Now, this was the post that they ultimately published back in December, but they sent the letter back to Harvard. So in October, Harvard responded. They had their defamation lawyer, Thomas Clare. He sent a 15-page letter back to New York Post threatening them. If you publish this, this is going to be defamation. It contains comments from some of the academics whose works on the Post that were allegedly plagiarized. Okay, so he went and contacted those people. In the letter, the academics rebuke the accusations of plagiarism. They say, no, she didn't plagiarize from us. And so they sent that to the New York Post, right? It's not plagiarism. You guys got your story wrong. But other members of academia disagree. Peter Wood, the director of the National Association of Scholars, he told the Washington Free Beacon, he said, if this were a standalone instance, it would be reprehensible, but perhaps excused as a blunder of someone who is working hastily. But that excuse vanishes as the examples multiply. And they're all old too, right? Like, so she thought she got away with them. And like, they didn't have, plagiarism checkers like they've got now. Now, Ann Williamson, a professor of political science at Miami, she put it more bluntly. She said, my first reaction is shock. The second is puzzlement. All she had to do is give me a credit and she would have been good. But then she wouldn't have been thought as like this intellectual powerhouse. She wanted to fake that she came up with the ideas. Says these events are not isolated. Yesterday, a 37-page report was sent to Harvard's research integrity officer addressing additional allegations of plagiarism. And so education says this is Harvard's responsibility to investigate each claim with the seriousness with which it investigates each student. Now, as you know, federal funding to Harvard is conditioned upon the school's adherence to standards of its accreditor. Now, Harvard's accrediting body, the New England Commission, maintains these standards, and their standards say that academic and institutional integrity are important. Compliance with these standards is a requirement to maintain accreditation. And so specifically, an accredited institution must demonstrate as part of its accreditation that it works to prevent cheating, that it works to prevent plagiarism, and deals with the instances where it is found. So the university, they say, must make adequate provision to ensure academic honesty, and its policies and procedures are included with fairness in dealing with even the staff. And so our committee, Education, expects that this accredited institution to advocate for high standards. Harvard does hold its students to these standards. For example, we know that in 2021 to 2022, during that school year, Harvard investigated 42 incidents of plagiarism, 35 allegations of exam cheating, 19 honor code violations, and 70 out of 100, 70% resulted in a finding of responsibility. 46 of those 70 resulted in academic probation or mandatory withdrawal. Again, Harvard, question, does Harvard hold its faculty and its own president to the same standards? Now, our concern is that these standards are not being applied consistently. Oh, like two systems of law. No, what a surprise. No, mostly invented by Harvard. Now, resulting in different rules for different members of the community. If a university is willing to look the other way and not hold faculty accountable for engaging in ongoing academic dishonesty, it cheapens the mission and the value of everything. Students must be evaluated fairly under known standards and have a right to see that faculty are too. So to help provide assurance that Harvard is adequately and appropriately responding, please give us the following documents. We'd like to see all documents and communications about the initial allegations of plagiarism and your so-called independent review of Claudine Gay. And this request includes all meeting minutes, transcripts, notes, coordinating communications, memoranda, other materials that Harvard has. We also want all documents and communications about allegations of plagiarism by Gay and the other university's public response to media inquiries. We want a list of any disciplinary actions taken against Harvard faculty or students on the basis of misconduct, including inadequate citations and other forms of plagiarism that we know about from 2019 to present. This list should be anonymized, talk about the subject of discipline, the date of the misconduct, the type of disciplinary proceedings, and any other disciplinary actions imposed. They also want any non-public guidelines and policies about adjudicating plagiarism, and they also want communications between Harvard and its accreditor to determine if there's any disparities in the way Harvard has been being treated. Now, the committee, as you know, under Rule 10 has the ability to investigate these things, and so please see the instructions for how to gather these materials before you send them back over to us. This request encompasses material that not only is in possession of Harvard, faculty and staff, but also the Harvard Corporate corporation and the board of overseers. And we expect that this request will be conveyed promptly to everybody who needs to know. So please send this all back over to us at this address. Don't wait. Get it to us by December 29th. And this is sent by Virginia Fox, the chairwoman on the Education and Workforce Committee. So Harvard now coming under congressional scrutiny. They have been, running large parts of the country for many years. And just like they run the country in a cheating, disgusting fashion, well, their own president is also what appears to be a cheater, a plagiarist, somebody who has faked her credentials to get where she is, and now they're doing what they can to protect her. So we'll see what Congress says about this. Of course, we'll be here covering this stuff and more, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.